basically domes with bathrooms, is a septic tank done underneath the unit? The answer is no, you cannot put a septic system underneath your home. So it's usually located away from the home, and there's some factors involved, such as, you have to find out if drainage is good in the soil you're trying to drain it, where you need to locate it based on that. There's a lot of criteria, but it definitely does not go underneath the dome. He was also asking if you could support domes by solar. And the answer is simply absolutely yes, you can. It just depends on what your demands are in electricity. Are you heating your dome with electric, hot water? If everything's being done with electric, you're going to need a fairly sizable grid. And of course, the dome itself does not accommodate solar as good when you get to a large grid. You can put a few panels that will be due south, or you can be on an extension or attached garage or something. You can do that, but the dome itself isn't really conducive to a large array of solar. So if you want to do 100% everything by electric, you'll probably have to have a ground-based solar system, or you utilize the garage roof or something like that to give you a nice flat south-facing surface. And then his last question out of the 3-part questions were, he was wondering if there's any major drawbacks to receiving water from a dug well as opposed to the water company. And the answer is really no, but it's kind of, depending on where you are, you may not really have a choice. A lot of times if you're building on a city lot that's already been annexed for sewer and water, they're gonna probably tell you you're gonna have to hook up to their city services, because they're gonna want that contribution towards the overall budget. But if you're somewhere remote, then you may not have the choice for city water either, because it's only gonna, so it's really not an either or. Most of the time, it's either you're gonna have the option to it or you're not. And if you have the option to it, you'll probably have to take it. But there's no disadvantage to a dug well, unless you're somewhere where the water quality is really bad. And then the only disadvantage is you'd have to do some heavy filtration on the water to, temper that for yourself. But yeah, so that's, and again, like Dennis mentioned earlier, Justin, if you want to jump in there, if I maybe didn't interpret your question right, or you got more that you want me to elaborate on, feel free to jump in. We kind of want to open this up a little bit as a conversation to the people that we're answering their questions for, so that if they, we want to make sure we get that answered for you. So feel free, anybody, as your questions being read, feel free to jump in if you'd like. So.
All right.
All right, we'll move to the next one. So from Maggie from Ohio was asking, please discuss a basement versus using an additional home or dome.
What you're dealing with is a basement would probably be necessary if you're on a hillside and you had a walkout basement. If you've got flat ground, I wouldn't suggest a basement as additional space. If you need it, if you really have to have that space, you're almost, for what purpose, I guess, is what I would ask. If it's for storage, that's an expensive storage proposition. Basements used to be cheap. They are not cheap these days. Waterproofing, air handling, electrical, it's part of the heating area that you're going to be doing. So it's not a cheap space to build these days. You can think it may be economical, but if you did a slab on grade, that's going to be cheaper. There's different ways to support that slab on grade. So there's a lot of discussions, and these items are really not in the construction manual, but it's stuff that we can talk to you about. A lot of it's site related, and some of this is related to costs. So, it's a hard one to say that it's a good thing to build another dome or to build a bigger dome. I should mention too, Tanner is sort of flashing through a bunch of slides or photos that we have, some of which are not our domes. The one on the screen and the one that he had before this one. Actually, the one before this one was one of our domes that was down on the coast of Texas, and it was the aftermath of a hurricane that had ripped some shingles off and thrown some debris in the yard. This is one, I'm not sure whose it is. I can tell by a variety of things that it's not one of ours. So we have dome photos from a lot of people, and I will apologize if I don't know from some of them there. You can see a lot of domes that we have there.
Oh, I hear something now, but it's really quiet.
So here's the full basement, Dennis.
So here's the basement, yes, basement walkout. Is this the California dome? Yeah.
I don't know. I see that pool there. I'm trying to recall where that's at.
Yeah, I am too. There's a dome being built in California. This kind of looks like it. Remember, it's the modified
Yes.
dome that we did that fits over the extensions. This is that dome.
You're right. It is. Yep. Yep.
I've seen this picture before. This is a fairly new picture here. We built the dome on top of this $2 million house project they had going. You're not seeing all of it. In the back of it, there's another whole big extension for it there. There's the backside. It's a huge project, but our dome was modified to fit. It's a 40-foot diameter dome, and the space it's covering is the living room, which is 3 stories tall. And they must have gotten the 3-story steel spiral staircase in place because the dome is finished off. They had a section of the dome that they didn't build until they dropped in a 3-story steel spiral stair, 8-foot wide steel spiral staircase. Interesting things.
Yeah.
The second part of this question that Maggie has, talking about hot tubs inside the dome. How is the heat and humidity accounted for in the plans? You just adapt for it. You need an air handling system that can take the moisture. Usually hot tubs aren't a big issue. We have a jacuzzi tub here. You don't fill it up and just leave it. A hot tub you do. Often what you need is a ventilation system that's going to exhaust the air where the hot tub is. There is a dome with a lap pool. There are several domes with pools in them, and they have separate air handling systems so they can exhaust all of that very, very moist air out. But I also would suggest a cover on the hot tub and a cover on the pool to eliminate that evaporation and the moisture that you're going to have. But it can be accommodated, but you're going to have some mechanical and you're going to have some utility costs if you put that inside. I am on the third. Well, I should say this, Maggie, if Maggie's on, have I answered your questions here? You have anything you wanted to add to that?
Hey, Dennis, thank you so much. No, I think you answered my questions. You know, it was living space versus storage space for the basement. So, you know, it'll be something we look at once we get ready to build, you know, which is the best way to go. And, you know, there was that one floor plan that I really liked and it had a hot tub in it. And I was just wondering how that worked, but I think you answered. Thank you.
Do you have the property now or are you looking for it?
We do. We have 40 acres that we've already purchased and paid for. So we're just, my husband's not quite ready to retire out yet and resettle down. So we're waiting for that time to come. And when we do, that's our property that we'll move to that day.
Good. Yeah. So the site location has a lot to do with it too. If you got some sloping ground or heavy steep slopes, the lower level sometimes is almost mandatory to hold it up. Although there was a photo on here a couple of slides ago on the Sedona Dome, basically they blasted rock out of the hillside and set half of the dome on rock and the other half was on pillars on an extremely steep slope. And in that case, the basement would not be a good idea. So it is kind of site specific. Part of that is site specific, I should say. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
all right. The Next question here is from Anthony in Ohio. He's asking about, is it possible to have a balcony deck or a deck accessible from an upstairs bedroom and bathroom? I have several plans that have a balcony that's off of the master bedroom upstairs that you can only get to by opening doors or a door from the master bedroom. And that's a closed bedroom. So it's very possible. You have to design the floor system. Usually what we're doing is cantilevering joists out, and you can easily do 4 to 5 feet on a cantilever for the joists. The joists are usually 2x12s on your second floor. So we've got a lot of domes with open master bedrooms upstairs that works well if it's a couple or a couple with really young kids, but it's all in the plan. If you want that upstairs, it can be done. I mean, if you want that balcony off of it. The other question you had, or 2 other questions, can you have a fireplace on the main floor and then share a flue with the one above it on the second floor? No, you can't if it's wood burning. You've got to have separate flues for each wood burning fireplace. That's what you were asking, is a wood burning fireplace. So they can run side by side. The one that we have here is a large fireplace. You can see on the side over here. I don't know if I'm not on the main screen here, but if you can see my little picture in your screen, there it is there. So it's a Napoleon fireplace, and it's a very large one, but it's got one flue up. And if we had another one, we were planning another one in the master bedroom, but it would be a see-through. If I had one upstairs, that'd have a separate flue. They would exit at the same part. The last question you have, is there a weight restriction on the second floor if you had a hot tub or jacuzzi upstairs in a master bedroom? There's no weight restriction. You just have to plan for it. I would usually double up joists and space them at 12 inches on center. You can map out the weight of that hot tub on the floor area and come up with how much per square foot of weight that you have. Generally, a floor is going to easily take 50 pounds a square foot. So that's a no-brainer. But when you're up into 100 pounds a square foot, commercial loading and stuff, you need to plan for it. So yes, it can be done, but your floor system is going to support it. And downstairs, you got to carry that load down to the main floor. That's all in the structural planning that we do. We do have a registered structural engineer. A lot of it is pretty standard, but oftentimes when we get into something that's like that, and you wanted some open space downstairs, we may have Paul, the engineer, do it.
Great.
That take care of it, Anthony?
Yes, that answered the questions quite well. And as it came to the fireplace question, you did actually answer that insofar as that they would both exit at the same spot. And that's what I was really looking for.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much.
It's better to have them at the same spot because just visually, you can tie that together and make a fake chimney box around the outside.
Certainly. And we were thinking of using wood burning fireplaces, like a wood burning stove rather than an actual fireplace itself.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Great. All right. Our next question is an easy question from Jamila in Florida, and was asking, do you sell dome home kits? And that is simply enough. Yes, we do. And you can just go to our website and we will have
Here's
all of the
website.
dome. Sorry, what's that, Dennis?
Here's the website, and Chandler's on it, and he's going to click on it to show you. That's the menu bar at the top of our website. And it takes you to this page that talks about the dome kits.
Yeah, we have all of our standard sizes listed with pricing, but if you don't see a size on here that you are interested in, we can do pretty much any size dome. I should say any size within reason, but so, we can do a lot of off sizes. It's just we kind of have our standard ones on there for people to get an idea of cost. So in fact, we have all of our products that we sell from Natural Spaces Domes online with all the pricing, with the exception of some Marvin windows and some things like that, where it really kind of depends on the project. So good resource for that, but we do sell dome kits. So.
All right. The next question is from Andrew in New York. And basically, he's an architect with a client that's interested in dome homes in Vermont. And how does the process work and how is the cost estimating? Basically, if Andrew, I don't know if you're here, but as an architect, we'll help you. How should I say this? We'll help you with the any restrictions the dome has, but we tend to want to work with you in your design and just make sure whatever you're removing or whatever you're adding onto the dome works well. We've been doing this for 50 years. My background is architecture. I'm not a registered architect because I was foolish enough in my youth not to get a license. But anyway, it's our website that's going to tell you what the process is. You can certainly ask for a dome grid. We have a CAD drafter, not in-house, but he's consulting, and he can send you a digital dome grid for the size that you're looking at. And that's really what you want, a 3D grid. So that's a big part of it. There is a cost for that. It's minor. I forgot what it is, $100 or something, just for the time involved to get that to you. Usually what we do is the costs are refunded if somebody buying a dome from us. But the cost estimating, we've got some square footage cost estimates there, but we can certainly look at whatever you're doing and say what our whole entire dome shell is going to cost. Shingles, skylights, insulation, interior panels, whatever you're looking at, and talk about what options there would be for your client. So we're very happy to work with somebody. I am the one that draws up preliminary plans and stuff here. And being as swamped as I am, having somebody else draw somebody's plan is great. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I'd be happy to consult.
Right.
Andrew, that answers your question? Questions, if you're there? Some people, don't show up or whatever. So, or you don't have anything to say. That's fine too.
That must mean you answered it, right?
I must be the answered it.
I think we
Tanner said this will be recorded. This is being recorded, and the questions will be available as a
right.
afterwards.
Before you finish that second part, you want to hop back to the previous question?
Oh, sure.
Janina asked from South Carolina, are
there?
there any restrictions on where I can build a dome home, and are there zoning restrictions?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Take it, Derek.
I mean, I guess there's always going to be certain zoning restrictions somewhere, but not that would apply directly to a dome home. Essentially, the dome home qualifies as just a regular home. So it's not like you'll find zoning for a residential property where they will say that you can build any other house except for a dome home or any other house except for an A-frame. Now, there may be some HOA communities that have another layer of a governing body on them that will maybe put some further restrictions on that, but anything from city, county, state zoning, there's not going to be any restrictions on building a dome per se. There may be a height restrictions or some things like that that may kind of dictate some aspects of it, but that's true with any house. So I guess I'm trying to not make it too long, but really the answer is no. Here's a map, as you can see, where we have, this is some of the domes. As you zoom in, it populates even further. There's, I think, a couple thousand domes on this map, but you can see they're pretty much in all states and in Canada, and we got a lot of them internationally. And, you know, so yeah, no problems with zoning unless it's, you know, in an HOA, you may have to build a house similar to the rest of the neighborhood. In which case, unless the rest of the neighborhood is dome homes, that may be kind of tough to do, but anywhere else, you shouldn't really have a problem with it.
Not to be too derogatory, but the term is usually Beigeville. If you're in an HOA and it's in a residential development and you're going to plunk a dome in the middle of their suburban or city lot, I shouldn't say too much, but we have domes in Minneapolis and St. Paul, right in the regular neighborhood where there's 1920s and 30s and 40s houses. It's not a problem. It's not restricted. In fact, dealing with Minneapolis and St. Paul that I have was much easier than some of the suburbs. Just in they know what they want. They know what they want in a plan. They don't really care. And they found it interesting. And most building inspectors do. They find this interesting. So the planning process, like Derek said, it's not restrictive to domes. And if it was, it's actually illegal. Zoning laws are for setbacks, space distances, a variety of things. You can't get a curb cut here. You can get only one or something like that. All right. So I think we satisfied that one. I'm going to take the next one here, and this is from George in Ontario, Canada. Basically, he says, I would like to learn how to build a dome. The following points are important. And I won't take your time to read all 20 of the points that he's bringing up. But to say what to answer your question, George, you need to go online and go to Bear Creek Dome, and you will see under Bear Creek Dome how it was built. And there'll be a whole series on the left-hand side of your screen. There's going to be a whole series of, in fact, Tanner, if you want to go to the homepage and go to Bear Creek Dome or click on it right away, that shows you the process of what's involved. Scroll down the screen to this block of pictures. On the left, you'll see Bear Creek Dome. Click on that. Now it opens. Scroll down a little bit, and you'll see some things here that says Building Bear Creek. Next, right up there. You're right below mooring. There you go. Click on that. And there's all of these photos taking you from footings and insulation and radiant floor and shingling and just a myriad of them, being that this was our house that we built. I did take a lot of pictures. There's the instantaneous hot water system. There's blower door test I see. So there's a lot of things that are here that's going to show you all of these things in sequence. So the other thing that we have, and it is available to anybody, it is the virtual dome school. It's basically 12 hours long, broken up into four segments? I think we broke it up into kind of with some breaks between, I think it is. So that one is available to buy online. I think it's $195. And you get access to that channel and you can watch that at your leisure. And you can go back and forth on it. That's going to show you what we do, what we did in the virtual dome school. We are planning a dome school for June. It's based, at this point, it looks like it would go, assuming that our current shape of the COVID system is diminishing, but we will also be requesting that you have your vaccination.
Whatever, right?
Pardon? Is that George talking? Oh, somebody was talking. Okay. We are going to request that you have your vaccinations. And if you don't, you have a test that's within 72 hours of arriving. And if you're flying, in fact, if you're traveling here, we're going to have some instant tests that can be done in a 15-minute, the 15-minute test, the basic test. We have some here, and that will be used. What we want is we want everybody to feel comfortable when they come here, that this is what we do. Currently, that is part of our requirement when you visit us here too. We want you to be totally vaccinated. You're going to wear a mask, and that's what it is. What? And a booster. If you don't have a booster and you got your shots, I don't know why you don't have a booster. We've had two of our staff that went through COVID just recently, and they had their shots. In fact, Tanner's one of them, and they had their shots. They're both 21. I think you're 21, aren't you, Tanner? Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so. And we've had my 5-year-old grandson got COVID. That was after his 2 shots, which he was really proud of, that he got his 2 shots. And he was not sick that he went after he went through it. It was one day he had a fever, a high fever, and that was it. And then he got to loll around and stay home from school and watch TV and play on his computer. So he had fun. All right, so let's go on to the next question, which I realize in my thing right here. The question is, there's 3 people here, or 2 people here. Drew from, I think it's Hawaii. It says HI on our list here. And then Bob Henn from Tennessee. And both of them are talking about, the first one says, purchase some property with a partially finished dome. And then the other one is inherited a 20-foot diameter dome. Tanner, I sent you I emailed you a photo. I don't know if you can put that up, find that one. It was an email I sent just after you left. Tanner's working from home. So there's the photo. This is the one Bob sent in. He inherited this 20-foot diameter dome, and he's saying, okay, what could he cover this with? This is a foam, this is an aged foamed dome. There's simply a wooden frame on the inside, but it's all foam. My reaction to it was basically there is not much you can do about it. It is at a state where I wouldn't even attempt to do anything about it. Foam on the outside really can't be covered with anything that's going to make it totally waterproof. You could try to, shave the foam down and get rid of all the ridges, but I'm not sure how thick that foam is. We have several domes in Minnesota with a dome insulator, I should say a foam insulator that built these domes. He was a dealer of ours back in the 70s. I talked to him within the last couple of years, and I asked, how are your domes doing? Because he sprayed the outside of the dome. But he had a coating on it, and they were relatively smooth. So he said, fine. So there is a way to do foam on the outside, but you got to cover it with elastomeric coatings or the proper coating for the foam that you're putting on. And it's urethane foam, it's a hard foam. You can see where they scraped off some foam around the picture on the window here. This is what urethane foam looks like. So this one, I have to say, is just too many fissures and too many unusual things that you couldn't really get this totally waterproof. You want to do any kind of a habitable structure, you want to have an air-to-air exchanger inside. And you're going to have the off-gassing from the foam here is probably long gone. So it's probably not off-gassing. If it does smell on the inside, then you still have some uncured foam, which I don't think the age of this looks like you shouldn't have. But you need an air-to-air exchanger. Minnesota, Vermont, Maryland, I think are the states, some of the states that require an air-to-air exchanger for fresh air coming into the house. That's mandatory. When you foam a dome, it is tight. It is extremely tight from an air standpoint. The foam, however, may not adhere around the window, around skylights, around chimneys. So you may have some points there. But really, the questions you're saying, you know, what can you waterproof it with? There really isn't anything. You'd have to build another covering on top of this somehow. So the other one from Drew, I don't have a picture of, but he said it's also a fiberglass dome covered on the outside. There is a fiberglass dome that was done by Dynadomes at the Meteor City exit in Arizona on Interstate 40. And that one has foam on the outside. And that's up a few years ago. The person that bought it, it was still in decent condition. And they were needing another coating on the outside of the elastomeric is really what it needed on the outside, a refresher coat, a major refresher coat. It had been left vacant for a while. So let's go on to the next question.
Okay, so the next question is from Teddy from California. He was asking, are there any specific approaches for dome foundations in the desert?
I would say you can do almost any of the foundations anywhere, but in the desert, it's real common not to do basements and to do slab on grade simply because you don't have to contend with the frost. In the northern regions, because of frost, you usually have to put at least footers down so far to get below the frost line or to do a shallow frost protected shallow foundation, which is what Bear Creek is built on. But typically in the desert, it's very cost effective just to do a slab on grade with a thickened edge or a footer underneath anything that has a load bearing structure above it. So, but you can still do basements in the desert. You can still do crawl spaces in the desert. You can still do all of those things. But it seems like, at least when I lived in Arizona for a while, almost 99% of all the homes were slab on grade just because it was very easy to do there and it made a lot of sense financially to do that. So yeah, I don't know if that was kind of the question you're asking, Teddy, but if you want to jump in on that too, it looks like you're building in California maybe. So
You want to watch this with me?
I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I heard somebody jump in there. So but yeah, I would suggest kind of following that lead, I guess, and do a slab on grade if that was kind of what you wanted to do with your house anyway, because it just works great when you don't have to contend with frost. So
yeah, that answers the question. I was concerned about how soft the sand was. That was my concern.
Was about how, I'm sorry, I missed part of that. What was that?
I was concerned about how soft the sand was. This is in the Mojave Desert.
Oh, I got you. Well, and that's a good point to bring up because your foundation will have to be adjusted to your soil density, so to say. So there's a compaction rate. And if you're in a real sandy soil, that may dictate the width of the footer, the size of the footer, but you should still be able to build a slab on grade with that. You know, typically sand and a lot of these things compact pretty well, so you don't have to necessarily go down deep to get to a harder material. But it all, it really just depends. Yeah, if you're building like on a dune, that's a whole different story, I suppose. Then you do have to get something down to something that's not movable like sand. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends on the depth of the sand. You could probably add some to that, Dennis, since you built on the beach. I know you were more had to get down there for hurricanes and different wind loads, but did you get any kind of good information regarding sand putting?
Well, yes, we did. We built 2 domes down on the beach. The dome that's there on Topsail Island, the piers that we put in were 24-foot long, 8x8 seacoast treated, which is way beyond the normal treatment posts. And the way they got them down into the sand dune, which is what we were building on, it's an island, they hooked up to the adjacent fire hydrant with a big fire hose and a 20-foot long steel. There it is right there. What you don't see is the fact that what appears to be the dome sitting on grass, there's 8 feet open underneath that. This is the dune picture. So what they did was they took that 20-foot long, 3-inch diameter, there you go, steel pipe with a nozzle on it, and they put that right alongside of this 8x8 by 24-foot deep piling. And it made a slurry in the sand, and this 24-foot long pipe, piling just kind of slid right down. And as long as the water was on, as long as that sand was in a slurry, it just kept going down. And it's 16 feet down and 8 feet up. That was really what they were after. The minute they turned that hose off, it just locked in. The sand just, instantly stopped it. But you can't do that in the desert because you don't have a fire hydrant, right? Good point. My wife just pointed out. So there are ways to put pilings down. There's helical piers is another way to do this. And they rely on a depth and the friction. So that's what we're dealing with on some sites. We've done it. There's a dome as part of a blog on our site from Doug Peterson, or a dome that he built. And that one has helical piers that go down. It's based on the friction that they get. They may go down 10 feet, might go down 20 feet, but they just basically are a big screw with a flat plate on top, and you weld a plate that then connects to your foundation or to your main floor joist system. So.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next question is from Morgan in Minnesota. He's wondering about estimates on our windows and skylights, finding contractors, understanding the frequency and the profile. What about riser walls, closed and open cell insulation, HVAC, fireplaces, mini splits, a garage entry, all of these things. Basically, it sounds like you need to set up a consultation with us and probably be longer than the free 20-minute consultation. You got a lot of questions. We have a lot of things on our website all over the place. So this is the page that you go to, and it's part of the menu bar. You can see on the top, it says consultations. You can go to this page and go down there, and you will get to us, and we can set a time up. Usually it's going to be a 2 or 3 week lead time on setting up a consultation. So there's the consultation setup page. You get that, Debbie gets that, and she can schedule that one in. A lot of times, if it's with me, I'll do it in the evening, 8 or 8:30 or 9 Minnesota time. That's my evening stint here that I can do. So it doesn't have to be, and on some Saturdays afternoons, Sunday afternoons, depending on what we're doing. So it's not just during the weekdays. But
Okay.
that's what I got to say. There's just so many questions here that you wanted answers for. So
Sure. Yeah, and Morgan sent it in the chat that he just stepped away, so maybe we can email him quick too and let him know to call us,
Sure.
or he said
yeah,
he was gonna watch this once it gets posted, so, and Tanner told him he'd get it
Okay.
posted, so.
and he mentioned mini split systems, and Tessa wanted to say, yeah, we've got a mini split system here, two of them, one in the master bedroom and one up on the second floor, but 10 feet, 12 feet up from the second floor. That's what cools the entire house. And in the post-season to turning on the radiant floor, it can heat the house also as a heat pump system. So anyway,
Okay.
continue on to the next question.
And since I brought up the chat, there are a couple of questions that are in there, and I will try to get to those as when I can slip them in. But since one is real quick, it was just asking that a cantilever deck does not need support posts. And that's correct. A cantilevered balcony would just be simply, it just kind of protrudes out from the structure. It doesn't need anything below it. So of course, if you did put support posts, you can do a larger structure underneath it as well. So this one is from Donald in Colorado. And he's looking at building a partial dome attached to his home. And this particular dome has a skin that's essentially made out of polycarbonate and double pane glass. And he's wondering the best tape that you could use to cover the joints. So what this made me think of when I read this question initially is that, you know, a good resource for that, because this is real similar to some greenhouse domes that are built by a company called Growing Spaces. And they actually on their website offer the tape for sale directly through them. And they also spec it out on who makes it. Last time I looked, I think they just went to a new tape, but it used to be a 3M product that they recommended for taping the seams on their polycarbonate greenhouses. So I would definitely give that a quick look and see what their latest and greatest product is. But there are products out there specifically, well, not specifically made for taping polycarbonate, but that work really well, and they're UV protected, so they last a long time in the sun. So that's probably where I would recommend kind of looking and seeing, you know, what they would recommend, since that's kind of their specialty. So, yeah.
I'll add to that, just a comment about polycarbonates, plastics, and then you mentioned you have glass, double pane glass. Those are two really different expansion ratios. We did some glass skylights back in the early 70s. I mean, plastic skylights in the early 70s, and learned that in a, say, a 6 foot long section or edge of that plastic would move about 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch between the heat and the cold. So there's two different things you got to look at there, and as the expanding of the plexiglass and how you're holding it on, and are your screws there? Do you have seal washers? A variety of things in anchoring that thing down. Yes, there may be a tape that's out there that can tape over those seams, and if that's where your screws are or attachments are, that that could cover it and make it waterproof. At some point, all these tapes are going to degrade, and you simply have to replace them.
Mhm. No,
Is that good enough,
Donald?
if Donald's around?
Yeah. Sounds like an interesting project he's got, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll slide into the next question here.
Okay.
This is from Bonnie in Minnesota. She's asking if there's a ballpark price for the mini dome kit with the options with a main and lower level. And the lower level has been done. We do have pictures on our site of a mini dome with a lower level walkout in Nebraska. Someone wondered where they found a hill in Nebraska, but he did. It looks great. And we're dealing with different kinds of basements. So from a cost standpoint, it could be a wood foundation system, treated wood foundation system, could be insulated concrete forms, variety of, plain old concrete block with reinforcing, a poured concrete wall. So there's a lot of varieties to it. This is our mini dome that's on our property here. This is a prototype, and that's what you see is a treated wood deck sitting on the ground. There's no footings underneath here. There's a bunch of spacers of 3/4 plywood pieces that are at the support points. So it's level, but adding a lower level to it, you'd have the wood floor like we do here, and then you'd have a lower level. Cost-wise, the problem you have today, cost-wise, is concrete and the concrete contractors. They are extremely busy. Some areas I see that concrete is being rationed. We have a customer in Pennsylvania that's had problems getting concrete, and he called to order some, and they go, well, are you on our contractor list? Well, he wasn't a contractor. So he found a contractor that was on their list. So there are ways to do that, but there's some shortages that are happening this year in just being able to create some of the stuff that we normally aren't used to waiting for. And that's going to be all over the place on a variety of things. But, the cost range is going to be dependent on the plan and the windows and the doors. We don't really have all the rest of those options spelled out. A lot of those are contracted options. Another question you asked, Bonnie, was the price range for a 33 or a 36-foot dome with the same kind of mini dome front. There you can see, here's the walkout basement on the mini dome. This is down in Nebraska. It's David's dome down in Nebraska. Worked out very well for him. There's some inside shots. This is on our website. That's the main floor. There's the spiral going down to the lower floor. That's the lower floor bedroom. There's the bathroom downstairs. That's the main master bath and bedroom downstairs. This is the upstairs loft area that he created his office and a little family room area. So he's got a nice sized dome. It's not little, because if you got 400 square feet on the main floor, you got another 400 square feet on the lower floor, that's 800, and about 150 on the upper floor. So you're into virtually 1,000 square feet almost. But that's still a small house, very doable. I don't have cost estimates from him or cost results from him. We oftentimes just don't either have the time to get it, or we forget about it, and the customer doesn't really call us back and say, yeah, I built it for this much. So usually we'll find out if somebody really wants to, or if he doesn't want to talk about it, fine. But usually the customer will tell you what they've got into that project. Do we have plans for a larger dome size? We do, but they're probably 6 months off. 33-foot, 36-foot diameter would be the next jump to that size. It would probably be a low profile 33 or 36. And yes, there can still be a loft in that. The riser wall would be 4 feet, sometimes 5 feet. So trying to do a high profile dome and do the same thing as the mini dome probably isn't going to work out. Could be custom built. The last part of Bonnie's questions is, are there dome raisings near Minneapolis and in Wisconsin? There will probably be. There's a few domes that we have going up around here this summer, this fall. Will you be able to go to it? Yes, you can probably go and watch. Again, COVID issues with the owners. It's their decision as to what they want to do. But we will, if you're in a certain area, we will notify you. And when we have domes going up, we will put a notice out. We haven't done that really in the last year or two because of COVID. And the owners that we talk to just, they're just apprehensive about who's coming in. Prior to COVID, people would fly in. We had people flying in from the East Coast to dome raisings that we'd have here. People would travel for 2-3 states to come and join in a dome raising. So there's one that you see that's near Seattle, that picture then on the screen right there. So they got a lot of people to show up. If you're near a big city and you're putting a dome up, you'll get a lot of people. We have several thousands on our mailing list. And when we do a dome raising, we do send it out to our mailing list, to our email list. So let's move on from that question.
So next one's from Robert, and he's asking different ventilated dome shell options for cold and hot regions and why.
Okay.
Show
Well,
the
the
climate
ventilated,
zone.
sorry, what's that, Dennis?
Show the climate zone map.
Oh, yeah. So it's kind of interesting because nowadays with the newer building materials, you can almost ventilate anywhere. People have been doing it forever. And you can do what they would call a hot roof where you don't ventilate, and you can do that almost anywhere. But there are advantages to ventilation in certain areas and disadvantages to it in others. So for instance, if you're in the Southeast, where it's very humid and warm, ventilation is not necessarily that big of a benefit because you have hot, humid, moist air outside that can then get into your roof cavity as it's ventilating. So in those type of areas, and there's a lot of parts of this, and the climate map is the biggest kind of dictating factor, but you can still ventilate in those areas, but a lot of times I think the trend is now going towards hot roofs in those areas because you keep the humidity out of the house. However, where we are in Minnesota, for instance, where that the struggle is to keep moisture from inside your house to getting in your roof cavity during the winter months. And it does get humid here, but it's not real bad in the summer. A lot of people prefer to still do ventilated roof structures in the northern colder areas, or in dry areas, you can do ventilated roof structures. And then some of it could be dictated by your roofing material of choice, because some roofing manufacturers will not warranty their products on a hot roof. So if you're concerned about that, that may be part of what dictates it. Certain metal roofs, for instance, the underlayments can get very, very hot if it's not ventilated. So it's kind of like all building decisions now, as there's better materials, it creates more options, and you can fine tune your home quite a bit depending on where it's built. But I would say at this point, most homes are still ventilated overall, but it seems like we're kind of trending towards the hot roof thing as people really start to embrace spray-in foams, which does a great job air sealing your house, as well as providing a good insulation density, so you don't have to have real thick walls or roofs to achieve high R values. You got anything you want to add to that, Dennis? I mean, I don't know if that's kind of, Robert too, if I answered what you're kind of asking there, other words, jump in and let me know if you want me to elaborate more on that. But
well, I was thinking about the heat down in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that if you didn't have a ventilated roof, the heat would be so intense. I know that I went to the dome school in 19, and I was in Dennis's house, and he has sensors in the walls as to the temperature in the walls. And I would think that, now this is just me, I would think that the temperature of the roof would be so hot in a state like Florida that you would need it to be ventilated. On the other hand, you have the humidity problem.
Yeah, I'll get into that a little bit here with you. You don't want to ventilate. There's the map, there's a picture of my 3-prong temperature tester. It's so, but
Yeah, I remember looking at that.
yeah, right. It was 165 degrees in the airspace. And it was 110 degrees in the middle of the 18 inches of insulation that I've got, or 16 inches of insulation that I've got. But on the inside surface of that insulation, it was 74 degrees, which is the inside temperature during the summertime. So in Florida, there's a white dashed line, dotted line going through North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, or, through that area.
Right.
Especially below that area, you do not want to ventilate. What you want to do these days, you want about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches tops of foam insulation sprayed from the inside against your outside panel. And then you want an additional amount of fiberglass insulation in a thick wall with a high R value. You're going to stop that heat from coming to the inside. You will just literally stop it in its tracks.
All right. So there would be no airspace.
There would be no airspace.
And would it be an advantage of using the white aluminum shingles?
Yes, there would. Either white or light colored. They have special solar cool shingles that are out there too. And they're cheaper than doing the white aluminum shakes.
Oh, wow.
They're an upcharge too on the asphalt shingles that are light colored and specially created for a cooler roof.
Okay.
So there's that too. But it's really people who don't insulate the walls of their house because the code down there, I don't know if it even says 12 for an R value.
That's the thing.
And it's the same temperature. I'm sorry. The sun is hitting your wall. The sun's hitting your roof. It's the same temperature outside, 80, 90 degrees. It's got a heat load. You can say there's some reflectivity to the fact that the sun is so high and the wall is vertical and the roof is flatter. Well, there may be something to that, but I am a strong proponent of getting you at least an R40 as a minimum, and that's where the code is these days. And it really should be an R60 in the South. We're doing R72 now in the North. That's what we've changed to. Tanner, can you go online, get our website up and then click on insulation under the Dome store? You can swing back and get.
I watched you do the insulation in the school, so it was cool.
Sure, yeah, and we have the fiberglass insulation that we have is Knauf insulation, and they're wide bats.
Right.
We've got 2 charts on here. If you're using fiberglass only, there's a chart. But the top chart shows you doing a certain amount of impermeable insulation, which means spray foam.
Okay.
Rigid board is not able to be sealed tight.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you don't even go to rigid board as an outer layer. You're got an airspace. You want this totally sealed to that plywood. So that's where you spray foam.
Gotcha.
You can see in zones 1, 2, and 3, they want 1 inch. That's not enough. You want 2 to 3 inches to stop that heat.
Okay.
And then if you want an R70, which is, we're saying R60 in the far south and R70 in the 4 zone, but in the far south, we're saying R60 is what it should be. So that's what you're going to deal with.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
And everybody needs to go to the Dome School. It's worth it.
Right. We'll have 62 people here next spring. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one's from David, and he was asking, how do we get a ballpark figure of our building construction expenses from pouring the basement to shingling?
So Tanner, go up to the top and go to the Dome pricing on the menu. You can see at the top of your screen, there's on our website, it says Dome pricing. So you click on that, and you go down to square foot cost. You click on that, and this is this matrix that we have. And it's quality level A, B, and C. A is the cheapest, C is the more expensive. It means, C also means bigger kitchen, more appliances, more bathrooms, high quality, super high quality floors, a variety of things. And then you have the ways you can build this thing, from owner built to licensed contractor. So you type in, so he's got 1,200 here. So click calculate. So it now gives you a cost range for building 1,200 square feet finished structure. This is our estimate based on square footage. Yes, when you want to put that 8-burner Wolf gas range in there for $25,000, $35,000, that's going to throw your budget out a little bit, but it is as close as we can tell you in a range. And you see there's quite a bit of range in there. We have to do that because is it 1,200 square feet on 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors? Exactly what are you putting in there? There are a lot of pages on our website that show you exactly what our dome shells cost. And when you look at those, you get an idea. Most of our dome packages in an average size dome are going to fall between, I'm going to say 60,000 to 100,000. That's the package that we can supply of materials to you. So how does the house get to be $400,000? Easy. You've got a lot of stuff going on in house. The dome is a part of it. I'm not going to say it's a small part of it, but it isn't half of your house cost. I can't tell you what percentage it is because there's so many variables. You know, you go to your local Ford dealership and you say, how much is that Ford F-150 truck? And you look at it and you see $85,000. And then you go, wait a minute, it says here that it starts at $40,000. Well, yeah, you just put $40,000 worth of extras on it. So it's a hard one, but you have to be realistic. You can't build 4,000 square feet unless you look at this chart and say, oh yeah, I can afford that the way I'm going to build it. Because if you're not going to build the whole thing yourself, you got to start looking at a contractor or owner contracted or owner finishing or something in there. But so, all right. So did we answer that question well enough, I think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a tough one. Comes up every dome talk usually.
Yep.
And it's a reasonable question, but it's a really tough one to answer because there's, like you said, there's so many variables.
Yeah.
You could even take the identical dome and exact identical floor plan and build it in Nebraska and build it in California, and you're gonna have two completely different costs for that. So it just, you know, where is it being built? There's so many factors. But yeah, I think that cost guide is a good starting point to kind of narrow down what your budget is and what you plan on doing and what you can do for square footage. And then you can kind of start there anyway. I think that's a good spot.
We'll go on to the next question here, which is the construction manual. Does it include all this information on the platform, meaning probably what you're building it on? The cement, the concrete, the water and the piping and the electrical layout and the plumbing. No, the construction manual doesn't do any of that. The construction manual strictly relates to the dome shell and the related components. We do plans. You know, there'll be a layout for your floor joist system. And if you want to use you have to use some kind of floor joist system. Is it truss joist? Is it 2x10s, 2x12s? Some of that's dictated by the spans. So all of those variables are dealt with in the planning process. We don't really do, I say this and Derek's done the piping layout on the mini dome, but we don't really do the water piping system. We've done electrical layouts, but it's really, you're better off using your local electrician, unless you're going to do this yourself. But even so, you got to figure out how you're going to walk around this house. Where you want light switches? Where do you want lights? So you're better off working with the electrician to help you figure that out. It's got to meet a code. So all that stuff that's in the construction manual actually relates to all the different sizes of domes that we do also. So when you get the construction manual, as opposed to you get a construction manual for a 36-foot diameter dome. No, you get a construction manual that shows you the struts going up on any size of dome. So it's just easier to deal with a few extra pages, a few hundred extra pages, I guess is what it is. And you get people that change their mind or that have two domes that are two different frequencies, which is part of what the next question is from Maurice in Quebec. He's saying, is there a reason why we don't offer a 36-foot mid-profile design? Well, we do, but it has to be a 4-frequency dome. So it gets into the math. The frequency relates to how you divide that sphere up. If you've got a 2 or a 4 or a 6 frequency dome, you can slice it in the middle. And what do you get? Well, you get 1/2, that's a 2 frequency. And in a 4 frequency, you get 2/4, which is a half dome. In a 6 frequency, you get 3/6, so you can do it. But if you got a 3 frequency dome, it means if you want the equator of the dome, which is the mid profile, you got a 1.5, by 3 frequency, you divide that in half, it's 1.5. It means you cut the panels and struts in half. It's the equator of the dome, and it's not made that way. So the 3 and the 5, and we don't do 7, but if there was a 7, yeah, that would be in the middle of it. So that's the reason that we don't list it. If you want a mid-profile dome, you'd have to go to a 4-frequency dome, 36-foot in diameter. Then you could get a half dome. So it can be done that way. The estimate of the construction prices, do they include windows and doors? Yes, we just went over that. In that square footage cost estimate, yes, it does. The other question, the last question he had was the cost of transportation to Montreal and the custom fees. We are a licensed broker that can ship into Canada. We don't have our own trucks. It's an independent trucker that's going into Canada, who is also licensed to travel into Canada. But there's no duty because we are licensed. You still pay the GST tax going in. What does it cost? These days, the price is up there. Usually, we're talking about is a 53-foot semi-truck, and you're talking a range, I'm going to say the low-end range is $4,000, $4,500. The mid-range is $5,000, $5,500. To go any great distance, sometimes you're into $6,000, $6,500. Prices have gone up substantially in the last 2 years. Are they available? Yeah, we've got a truck that we scheduled a week ago. It's coming on Tuesday, and we're loading up a 53-foot semi-truck going to the site near Taos, New Mexico. There's a double dome going up there. Actually, the mini dome is up right now, and we shipped. It's enough material that they bought that it required 2 trucks to ship it in. But we used a pup truck, which is a 29-foot diameter truck, to ship a smaller dome. So if it's that small, but in this case, we shipped 2 53-foot semi-trucks because that's what we needed to accommodate all the skylights and windows and extra materials that were bought, interior panels for both domes, all this stuff. So We work that out in the beginning. We can tell you what it's going to ship, what it's going to cost. It's not based on the weight, it's based on the mileage. So it's an easy one to figure out. What can we fit in the truck? Yeah, we have to do a little math on that one. So. All right, I think I've got Maurice's questions answered there.
Okay, so the next one's from Celia, and she was asking, would a spray-on cork roof be an option?
Well, it kind of, my guess on that is essentially what that's intended for is if you already have a pre-existing roof, such as like asphalt shingles, and your shingles are getting old and they're probably going to need to be replaced. And would this essentially buy more time? I don't really think this would be a viable roofing solution on its own. It sounds great. I mean, it sounds like it would be, it's a great idea, but I don't think it would really be that durable. And it's always hard to refer or recommend a product that I haven't really seen tested. I went to the website and checked out some of their, you know, they have some photos of some stuff, a lot of interior stuff, some exterior that looks almost like stucco on the outside, but they didn't really show anything on roofing. And I do remember reading up on it once before, where it was intended to kind of spray over shingles just as a life extender versus a waterproofing system. So, you know, I guess I'd be hesitant to recommend anything until I've seen it done and it's had some, you know, decades of performance to judge it by. You know, it's always hard with brand new products or, you know, new green products that are kind of emerging continuously, but none of them really have a track record. You know, unless they're based on technology that's already been in use for a long period of time, like zip panels, where essentially you're using a foam board and a panel like plywood. In their case, it's OSB, and then a waterproofing membrane. It's kind of all things that have been done for decades already. So even though it's a newer product, it's really not. It's just a combination of products that have been used and in a situation they've been used in a long time. So I guess I would be hesitant to consider that an option, just because I haven't even heard any feedback or seen any houses that had it done, or don't know how long it would last or what happens when hell hits it. Does it survive a hailstorm, or does that pretty much, you know, break that apart? So I would say no at this point, I guess. I mean, you know, it could be a good material, but I guess I would have to wait until we, you know, could see it used on something and show the test of time. So if that makes sense.
A real quick answer on my part is that, you know, we've got elastomeric roofing systems as one of our options, but because of our experience on several domes, what we are saying is the elastomeric roofing system is fine, assuming you're in the western half of the country in the dry climate zone. And that climate map that we showed you, there's a line that runs north-south from the Dakotas down through, cutting through Texas. And the west half of that country, of our country, is dry climate zone. There's a dome in Lyons, Colorado. It was done in 1983, I think it was, or 84. And it's still doing fine. It's an elastomeric coating on the outside. My brother's dome that was done in northern Minnesota, after every 5 years, he had to power wash it and then clean it off and put a new spray coat to refresh it and build it up. And after he got a few times, he decided he's going to shingle the roof. So we don't recommend in the cold climate zone.
Speed up because you're only halfway through.
Okay. I'm supposed to speed up. I'm getting the hook, not quite the hook. That's later. That's later. Yeah.
Lots of questions. It's hard. Yeah. Hard.
The other one, this is a real simple one here. Have you done any builds in San Bernardino County? He's building in Landers, which is near Joshua Tree, but they have strict building processes. Well, no, they really don't. There's one building system, one building code in the country, and it's the International Residential Code. We exceed the International Residential Code. We've got 2 permits in San Bernardino County already issued. One is delayed. His wife has cancer. He's delaying the project. The other one, they're delaying it for whatever reason. But we have 2 more domes about to be submitted to San Bernardino County. I don't expect any problems at all. We know what they want to see in the plans. We provide them what they want. Our engineer happens to be in California, and the group of engineers that we have are licensed in all 50 states. So that's it. You got a plan? We'll work it out with you, but we don't see a problem.
Okay, so our next question's from Mitch, and he was asking, how does the dome design hold up against high winds, kind of like tornado weather?
We've got the picture in front of you that Tanner put on. This is in the fire zone in Alpine near San Diego, California. And what we did is our 3/4 inch plywood, and that has 1/2 inch cement board over it with all of the joints filled with the grout. And then that's spray coated over with, well, they didn't use Supercrete, but that's one of the brands of product that's used over this to give it a coating. There's a variety of design techniques that were used to help eliminate. There's no ventilation in the dome because that could bring embers into it. So yeah, there's a variety of things from the standpoint of wind that we do. The dome is round. I mean, look at the wind pattern going over these domes. The wind's going to go around it and over it. Our minimum design for wind speed is 150 miles an hour. The dome, here's the dome in North Carolina. Notice the corner of that extension is cut at a 45-degree angle. It's facing the ocean. My engineer said, here, cut this at a 45-degree. Now you don't have a flat plane with the turbulence on the other side of that corner. It's like your dome. The wind just goes right around it. So this has gone through, this dome is in North Carolina. It's gone through since, well, it was built in 98. Been many, many, many hurricanes go through it. It's got 16-foot deep pilings, and somewhere around the name 40 of them that's holding that down to the ground. Being up, Tessa and I have been up in the master bedroom, that's the top corner, and the wind is howling outside, and the dome has actually got a little movement to it. And I called the engineer, I said, is this supposed to be some movement? You know, it's not so noticeable. It's not like a earthquake. He said, yeah, it's a wood structure. It's going to flex. And that's all it does. So the wind is not a problem with domes. You want to go to 170 mile an hour winds? That's the one in Lyons. There's a new one in Lyons, Colorado, designed to 170 mile an hour. When I asked the engineer, what do I have to do to meet the code, which says I got to be 170, our engineering brochure said 150. He said, well, you change that, just type the new sheet and say 170, because I don't have to do anything. You want to go to 200, you can go to 200, just change it. So like I said, it's 150 mile an hour is the minimum wind speed that we're talking about on our domes. All right, let's go on to the next question. This one here, it's really the extensions and talking about how do we open the dome. It's from Eric in Washington. And we usually take 2 riser walls out and we open it up. And he's saying sometimes he's seeing 3 riser walls gone and this corresponding struts above it. Is it a Pandora's box of structural modifications? That was part of his comment. Yes, it is. It can be done. but structurally, we can show you how to do it. And it's that simple. You don't want to plan that in. I'm not sure there's a really reason for it. You need a support post in the middle of this extension opening built in. We did it in Hawaii, and we've done it other places where they've, for a variety of reasons, wanted this wider opening. But structurally, you got to take care of it. So let's go on to the next one.
All right, this one is from Mike in Texas, and he was just wondering if there's domes built in Texas that are willing to give a tour. I don't know if you can easily throw that map back up, Tanner, but there are a lot of domes in Texas. In fact, there is one gentleman who's had his up for sale. He sent us a video of it that I believe is posted on our website, or it should be. And I know that's not the same as walking through the dome, of course, but it's more of a matter of finding out where you live and then trying to find domes that are somewhat close to you and reaching out to those people and saying, do you mind if, Mike were to come by and take a look at your dome? We have dome tours up in Minnesota. Again, like Dennis was saying, COVID's kind of thrown a wrench into a lot of these things, but normally twice a year, we try to offer you the opportunity to go through all the domes at the Natural Spaces Domes Complex, as well as a lot of people that are somewhat in the area. So we're hoping maybe this spring we might be able to start that back up again. But if you happen to live somewhere in Texas nearby some of these domes, and we have contact information, and we'd be happy to give them a call and just let them know somebody's interested and see if they would be willing to let you come take a look at their home. Sometimes I know, Dennis, on a couple dome tours there, you've had people in other states that show their domes, like South Dakota. So, as we continue to do this and move forward, if we know that there's a lot of people hoping to see something in a certain area, maybe we can try to see if we can get one of those just to go on our dome tour, even though they're not going to be in the Minneapolis vicinity with the rest of us. They can still allow people that are in their states, to have a smaller commute, so to say, to be able to come visit a dome. So, but yeah, that'd be something where you could kind of just go through our NSD email, and Debbie can kind of look and see if she can find out where you are in domes close to you to see if we can find somebody for you. I don't know if that kind of helps you out there, Mike, but that would be probably the easiest thing that we could do on our end to be able to try to get you to into a dome. They're definitely different when you're inside of them versus just seeing video and photos of them. So it's always nice to do that if you can. So,
all right, we'll move on to John's question about how long is the turnaround time after ordering a dome kit. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are wondering, how are we going to do this year in ordering a dome kit? There's definitely going to be some lead times involved. How long depends on what you're ordering.
This is our question.
How many domes, how many skylights, how many whatever. So the answer is going to be somewhere between 2.5 to 3 months to 6 to 8 months. I got to say it that way. We ordered some special custom Marvin windows for this dome recently, and there was a 20-week lead time on the particular special windows that they had. So that's what we're running into. Material-wise, no, we can get plywood. We can get our 2x8 select structural southern lumber that we use for our structure. We can get all that. So the basic materials we've got, shingles, depends on the color that you want. There may be a little longer lead time on some colors that are not considered stock items, but generally, in fact, I'm going to answer a question talking about shingles that I was going to give to Derek here in a moment. The person said that they purchased a dome in Colorado and they need to replace the 3-tab shingles. Don't buy 3-tab shingles. They do not work on a dome. You have to go over the joint of the panels, and 3-tab shingles, you can't nail it It's the part of the shingle, and there's no rigidity. There's no structure in that 3-tab shingle. It's really thin. So Malarkey is the family name of a shingle that we basically, that's it. Malarkey Legacy. Legacy is a architecturally laminated shingle. Architectural laminated shingle. We have a roofing chapter that can be purchased for $30 if you're roofing somebody else's dome. If you're doing one of our domes, we give you that if you don't already have it, but it's also in your construction manual. So we tell you how to do it, and we want you. Okay, there's a good one here. Thank you. This is our house dome here, the old house. Another whole life here developed. This was built in 1975. It was redone, totally remodeled in 1983. And these shingles are from 1983. And they were Bird Architect 80 shingles with a 35-year kind of warranty, limited kind of warranty. Well, now it's 38 going on 39 years later. This picture was taken just before winter. I went outside and snapped a shot. I think there's still a lot of life left in these shingles, and I don't intend to re-roof this anytime soon. So the Malarkey Legacy shingles are rated, they're a limited lifetime 50-year, that's 50-year shingle. So that usually means it's a pretty good shingle, and it's an excellent shingle. Our roofer, if you ask him, that's all he'll recommend.
Hi, Dennis. This is Nina and Mark in Colorado. That was our question. So we
Yeah.
know we're not going to replace the roof with 3-tab, but we were looking at the Renke metal shingles.
Sure.
We're also looking at this Malarkey as well as EcoStar,
Okay.
the rubber shingle.
And our
roof.
biggest concern is the non-ventilated envelope, so it has to withstand heat, and asphalt shingles will just cook in the Colorado sun. And wondering what other shingle would be good to stand up to that intense UV and hot sun in the summer.
Well, the Malarkey Legacy is one that is rated for that. They also have, I believe there's a Malarkey Ecos, which is a lighter colored shingle. So Malarkey's got a couple different lines that you could do on that. The aluminum shakes, Reinke aluminum shakes, use GAF. It's Grace Architectural Products Ultra Ice and Water Shield. That's the only thing they recommend underneath the the aluminum shakes. It's rated for 300 degrees. And that's what you need underneath. It's a synthetic. It's not the same as their high temperature or their regular ice and water shield, which uses an asphalt material bonded to plastic, 6 mil or 4 mil plastic. So there are certain things you have to do with the Reinke shakes. This is a Reinke shake roof down in Texas. In fact, this dome was done from the 90s. So the underlayment has a lot to do with it. So the Reinkes are good. They're expensive. They're, 300 and are they 310 or something? They're over $300 a square, which is $3 a square, over $3 a square foot. Whereas the Malarkey Legacy shingles are currently at, I think it's $165 a square foot or $165 a square. A square is 10 by 10. So usually the recycled roofing, I know, Tessa, you were looking at the recycled roofing too.
I keep looking for it seems expensive.
Yeah,
but
they were.
I keep looking for it because I think the ones I've seen, I like the look.
Yeah, it's a nice look to it. It's got a very deep shingle. It's a very thick shingle. They don't work too well going around the edge of the panel. You'll see the photo in front of you with the Reinke shakes. It's overhang. point down panels overhang the point up panels. So that's what we do. We don't just wrap the whole thing in a one continuous band. It doesn't work when you get up past the second row of triangles anyway that way.
That overlap is done with flashing then?
No, underneath this roof, you will have a continuous ice and water shield. It's, you peel off the release, the paper on the back, and you stick this very high temperature, 300 degree, rated for 300 degree temperature material on the roof, covering everything, and don't put any ripples in it, and you lay it flat. So that's what's giving you the waterproofing protection. Your nails, when they go through the shingle, through the metal shingle into the plywood, vulcanize around that material. So you don't have leakage with the nails going in. So yeah, it's a cost factor too, so we've been really surprised. We've got malarkey shingles that have been used around here. We're in a hailstorm area. There's a dome that went through a hailstorm, and the appraiser came out and said, basically, nothing I can do. You don't have any damage. Yet the dome that was further down with cheaper shingles, different shingles, they got a whole new roof. Now, is that good or bad? Well, it's a hassle to go through that. So does that answer your questions?
It does. Thank you very much.
Yeah, do you happen to know, is the malarkey what they call Class A fire rated?
Yep. That's the highest rating you can get as a Class A fire rating.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
We're nearing our sort of cutoff time here. There's only a few questions left here. I don't know if Erklin is on, but he's from Guatemala, and he asked about teaching us how to construct our dome. Well, that's the virtual dome school. You can purchase the virtual dome school, and it's a 12-hour course. Do we sell dome plans? You can go online and see our website, and there's 225 plans on the website that you can look at. And they say they're going to buy their own lumber. Well, they can buy the connector kit by themselves, but they don't know how to cut and build each part. That's what the 400 page, well, it's more than 400 pages I've been told. More than 400 page construction manual does. It's going to show you how to cut out those parts and pieces. So I think that's the key thing, is that we're going to help you all the way along. We don't just sell you the construction manual and here's your connector kit and see you later. It's, what are you doing with it? What's the plan you're going to do? We're going to advise you along the way. We want to know, as I'm doing right now with the couple out in New Mexico, and the contractor, Larry, is calling me with any questions he's got. And he's so appreciative that he's gotten used to making that call, just even with a simple question. So I will tell you, when you buy a dome from us, you get my cell phone number, Derek's cell phone number, Tessa's cell phone number, Nancy's cell phone number, and you call those numbers, and we tell you, don't leave a message. Just keep calling a number. Someone will find some one of us that knows the answer to your question. So that's a big part of what we want to offer to you. The other questions that we just, there's some other questions that were here. One question from Bill in Michigan is, they've got an existing geodesic dome, and can they cover the inside, which has got popcorn textured paint on the inside with the sheetrock? They want to get rid of the popcorn texture with our wood triangle interior panels. Yes, easily. They are one-piece triangle panels. They're made from 1x8 tongue and groove spruce. We do a special surround backing on all three sides, and you basically nail these or screw these over your sheetrock. And then there's a batten strip that covers the joint and a round 5-inch diameter hubcap with a back cut on it, so you don't have any miter cuts on the wood trim that you put on between your panels. And you can do this yourself. You need about 3 people just because you got to hold the panel, get it positioned right, and then nail it or screw it in.
Okay.
So I think really all the questions that have been really answered. The only one was, a couple of them relate to it. Go to our website. The stuff is there. The material that we have is there. We get requests all the time. Well, send me your information. Well, it's on the website. We don't really have the printed literature that we have is probably about 7, 8 years old. So that's what we're relying on, is that website. And we keep putting more onto the website. And I know it's, some of you, it's really a lot, but you can see the menu bar above. We've expanded the menu bar from what it used to be. So that's what you want to do. Go up and look at those things and get your questions answered. We also have a YouTube channel. And with that, you can get your previous questions that have been asked answered. You can go through that. Is that our YouTube channel? I haven't seen the video on the YouTube.
I'd just like to add, if you ever get the chance to go to the actual school for the 3-day weekend, you will be hooked for the rest of your life. You have your lunches and your dinners right there, sitting at those chairs at the bar in Dennis's house. They're very great hosts. You learn. We built half of a 35-foot dome in 2 hours, framed it. So it's absolutely amazing. Just do it.
I'll second that.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, we enjoy it. I've been doing it a long time, but I still enjoy it. I still talking to people, and that's what you're going to see from us and feel from us, is that we like to know who you are, what are you doing, why you're doing it, and we'll try to accommodate whatever design you can come up with. I appreciate all of you that stayed with us. There's about, right now, it's about 35 people, it says. So that's pretty good. We got through, I think 1 or 2 here, but again, the answers to the couple of that I skipped over are found on the website.
Does Derek have anything you want?
You want to add something, Derek?
No, there's a few questions in the chat too, but again, we definitely went kind of beyond our normal amount of time. Are we going to do this again then next month? Are we back on the monthly, Dennis?
Yep.
So it's going to be the last Wednesday of
Last
February.
Wednesday, which is February 23rd.
So I think what we could do is if there was a couple that we didn't get a chance to get to, we can definitely get to them next time. And I think
if there's some urgent questions on the chat room, we could simply email you, an answer to it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it's just to kind of wondering, there's some of them are good questions that'll take a little bit though, but yeah. So I think we'll be a little more caught up too going into the next one. There was just a lot on this particular one. So, but great. No, that worked out good. So, all right.
Well,
thank you both for a wonderful, informative night.
Good. Yeah, it's been fun. We like the interaction with people too. That's what we want to see and hear from you. Make sure we answer your questions. So,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.
Is Tanner cutting us off? That's what we're doing?
Derek, you're the leader.
Derek's the leader. Okay.
Derek technically has to.
What's that? Oh,
You're the host. I can't.
Oh, okay. All right then. Well,
See you guys.
See you guys later.
Very good. See you next week.